What's going on, guys? Andrew Acevedo here, back with another video, and we are back with a collaboration. This is part one of a three-part collaboration with Frank About Sports, discussing the New York Mets trade deadline big boards. This is a three-part series. You guys right now are watching part one, which will be on my channel, talking about the designated hitter options. Part two will be uploaded on Frank About Sports channel, so the link obviously will be the top of the description for part two, and then part three will be on both of our channels, discussing the bullpen, which we think the biggest need is for the New York Mets. But, so just wanted to throw a little intro on here to explain. This is a three-part series. Part one here, you guys are watching part one. Part two will be on Frank's channel, and then on part three will be on both of our channels. If you guys like this and maybe want to come back closer, maybe after the All-Star break, about a week or two before the deadline, and we get a more clear-cut big board of Heyman, Rosenthal, Passan, Morosi, those guys make a big board, and then we'll maybe address that in a future video. If you guys like that, so leave that in the comment section down below. So, hope you guys enjoy, and welcome to part one, the designated hitters. It is officially MLB trade deadline season. I am hopefully getting this up on either July 1st, July 2nd. That's the goal. But, so we're officially about a month away from the MLB trade deadline, and the New York Mets will enter the month of June in first place, and they are a great team that is still flawed, like any team. No team is perfect. And I'm here, and I brought, of course, my Mets Weekly cohort, Frank About Sports. He's all linked in the description. Frank, what's going on?
Not much, Andrew. Let's get into some making improvements, because as we've said on Mets Weekly, it's been good, but it certainly could be better, because we've seen a lot of ugly things and some players that, Buck just completely avoids. And it's like you want to have competent players everywhere that you trust, all the way from player 1 to player 26, and just having that depth just in case any early guys get hurt. At least we brought in some backup guys. In a situation like last year, you get 1-2 guys, something happens, injury, and then you're like, oh, well, too late now. The deadline passed.
Yeah. So this video, we're going to make the big board. This is a way too early big board. Things can change. I will probably do a second. Maybe we'll come back around after the All-Star break. We get a little more vision of who's going to get traded, who's not. This is just my early predictions of. I have a big board of the DHs, the starting pitchers, the relievers, and some bench bats the Mets could potentially go after. We're also going to have a tier system. Tier 1, I'm going to probably put a graphic here. Tier 1 will be the guys that I think are most likely going to be dealt by the August 2nd deadline. That being, 1, either their team sucks, 2 is a rental, and those teams need to capitalize on adding assets to value you're going to lose in the offseason. Tier 2, the guys who I think are 50-50 to get moved. Maybe they hold on, and maybe their team's dumb. Maybe it's the Colorado Rockies. They don't know how to asset manage. Maybe they hold on to a guy. Maybe they don't. And then tier 3 is either, 1, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. 2, a team with better assets will probably go after him and have a better package than the New York Mets. Or 3, I just hope they don't do it, but that's what a lot of people like, so I thought I'd put them in the video. So first, let us start off with the biggest offensive position known for the Mets. The Mets are the number 1 offensive batting average, OPS, run scored. They are leading a lot, and they've done it with no DH. Frank, I know J.D. Davis, Dom Smith, Robinson Cano. The DH position has been the new graveyard. Obviously, this is the first year with the National League having the DH, and the Mets have already created a nice little graveyard. And we'll show up the graphics with Tier 1 and Tier 2, and then Tier 3. We'll break it down. Tier 1, Josh Bell, Washington Nationals, first baseman / DH. Baltimore Orioles, first baseman, DH, Trey Mancini. Tier 2, outfield DH, Seattle Mariners, Mitch Haniger. Miami Marlins, left fielder, Jorge Soler. Tier 3, Ian Happ, Chicago Cubs, left fielder, and Colorado Rockies, first baseman, C.J. Cron. Frank, of Tier 1, which of Josh Bell or Trey Mancini do you think is a better fit, and who do you think they'll go after, and who do you want them to go after of Tier 1?
Josh Bell is the better player between the two. I think there's no question about it. But when we talk about fit and likelihood, I think that having the Mets go after one of the Nationals' bigger pieces, it's unlikely because they're in the same division. We know the Washington Nationals are very reluctant to make any significant move within the division. That doesn't go for the Mets. That goes for the entire division. So I don't think he's likely, even though he would be a nice fit, because Josh Bell, we've seen him have good power numbers in the past. the biggest one in 2019. So it's always a red flag nowadays when you look at the difference in the baseballs. But what I've liked about Josh Bell this season is seeing him use the opposite field a lot more, not being all or nothing power hitter. And that would fill in really nice the philosophy that the Mets have had this year of going to all fields. So I think that Josh Bell would do a nice job with that. He also would fill in perfectly for the Dom Smith role, where he's not a good first baseman, but at least he can get starts at first and just keep Pete Alonso rested, keep Pete Alonso healthy, because as we know, Pete Alonso has been the MVP of this team. He has been so important. You don't want to lose this guy for any extended period of time, and you want him as fresh as possible to continue putting up the huge numbers he has put up. So while Josh Bell would be a great fit, I think he's unlikely. Trey Mancini, he's a great story. He's a great guy. He fits the lineup because he's a right-handed hitter, first base, but the splits as far as lefty-righty, it's not as drastic as you would like. The power numbers aren't quite what we're looking for because we really would like to see him add one more prolific power bat with the home run ball, because we know this team, they get their hits and what have you, but every now and then it's nice to hit a long ball here. At least some guys that could do it. The guys that they brought in to do it, like Escobar, hasn't happened yet. But I think Trey Mancini, he's good. He won't cost too much, but I think that neither one of these guys are like, oh my gosh, this is someone the Mets have got to really target, and they have to have him circled. I think both these guys, they could help. Josh Bell, I'd love to get him, but he's unlikely. Mancini, I think there's some better options that we're going to get to later I'd much prefer.
Yeah, but like you said, if you're comparing these two guys, obviously this season Josh Bell is having a better overall season. 11 homers, 46 RBIs, 2 Mancini 7-28. You look at the slash line, he's hitting 312 with a 393 on base, 496 slug with an OPS of 889. Mancini only with a 283 batting average, 361 on base, which does fit in pretty solid with the Mets, obviously on base merchants that they are. 422 slug and a 784 OPS. Obviously, you look at the two guys. Josh Bell's obviously having the better year, and obviously him being a switch hitter has some value as well, being a switch hitting bat, even though he is atrocious from the right side, and maybe should do the Cedric Mullins and just, hey, be a left-handed hitter, because that's what you're. My favorite option of the 6 guys is probably the one that most people aren't going to like, which he will be in tier 2, which we'll move on here, is I have always been a huge fan of Mitch Haniger, Seattle Mariners right fielder. They just extended Jesse Winker with arbitration and gave him an extension. Obviously, they have the second coming of the greatest outfield prospect of all time, Julio Rodriguez. They have Taylor Trammell, who's played pretty well this year. You still have Jared Kelenic, even though he's floundering around in the minor leagues. So the Seattle Mariners outfield is pretty clouded. He is a free agent, age 31. Obviously, I know he's injured, and that has been his biggest bugaboo, is not being able to stay healthy throughout his career. But when he's on the field, he is a productive power bat. And again, is this the type of guy? The Mets need another bopper behind Pete. Jeff McNeil, the Taiwanese all-star himself, has had a great year. But he's not the protection that Pete Alonso needs. Because again, Lindor has Pete behind him, and as great as Jeff McNeil is as a hitter, he really doesn't put fear of God when you see Jeff McNeil. I mean, Jeff McNeil is going to get a hit, don't get me wrong, and you don't want to see him in a big spot, runs in scoring position. But, you're in a one-run game, you rather pitch to Pete Alonso or Jeff McNeil, the teams are going to pitch to Jeff McNeil, and Pete's going to have to be selective. Obviously he had his big year in 2021, 39 homers, 100 RBIs, 253 average, and a 120 WRC plus. That's his prime year in 2021, but that was the first time he was able to stay healthy, because obviously 2021 did not play coming off an injury. 2019 he got hurt, only played 63 games. 2018, 157 games played, and this year he's only played 9. Is on the IL, hopefully going to get off the IL around the All-Star break, which, again, kind of concerning. You're going to trade for a guy who's just coming off the IL. I can understand why. I just personally have a preference. I've always liked Mitch Haniger as a player. I know we talked about in the offseason before the Mariners turned him a contract last. I think, Frank, you were on my side. You wanted to sign Mitch Haniger as an option in the offseason, but also you got Jorge Soler, again, with the Marlins. Kim Ng didn't want to make a trade with the Mets. Do you think Jorge Soler is maybe a better fit, and maybe do you like Mitch Haniger compared to Jorge Soler?
Ideally, like you said, I do like Mitch a lot. He's a really good fit for what this team needs. He had 39 home runs last year. Like we said, you need the long ball. He did that in Seattle. Not exactly the most hitter-friendly ballpark in the world. So, and this is a guy that's a proven track record. Like, Mitch has been a good player year in, year out. It wasn't like, 2021 was his one good year. And I think that he does fit because he's good runs on base, good against left-handed pitching. That's two things that the Mets could really use right now. And he's serviceable in the outfield, whereas Trey Mancini, you're looking at first base, some outfield, and same with Soler. His primary is outfield, but he doesn't really move around too well. Mitch is a much better defender, which I think is good because, like we said, if every now and then you want to give Marte a day off, you want to DH Marte or even DH Canha just to keep these guys fresh. I mean, we've seen the way Buck has used Mark Canha. Canha's like a 2 out of 3 days kind of guy. So having another solid guy in there like Mitch every day would be really nice to see. You have him DH most days, then when Canha needs a day, he moves to left field just for the day. So he would be a nice fit, but I'm just so concerned with the injury, and it's like we don't know how he's going to play after the injury. So he's going to come back soon, so the Mets will have a little bit of time to evaluate him before that August 2nd trade deadline. And you would hate to see for the Mets get a guy where he only has 1 month to really show how his health is, how he's performing. And if he has a good month coming off the injury, then it's like, okay, but what if he goes into a slump right after? He only had the 1 good month. So the injury does scare me quite a bit because, like you said, he is a little bit older. He's had plenty of injuries in the past. And I just think that my concern was multiple injuries already this year. And nothing significant yet, but we've seen Marte get banged up a few times already. If you're going to get another outfielder, you want somebody that is much more durable. And then my thing with Soler, very similar to Josh Bell in the division. I don't think Miami would do it. I don't think Miami would give Soler to the Mets. They just gave him that 3-year deal this past offseason. And you like Soler because if you want a power bat, you want a home run bat, Jorge Soler is capable of that. This guy's been a prolific home run hitter year in, year out. He got a lot of big hits for the Braves in their World Series run. But then again, so did Eddie Rosario and Adam Duvall and company. So you don't put too much stock in that. But my one thing with Soler is that he strikes out so much. And we've seen Eduardo Escobar strike out more than we like to. We know the catchers are going to strike out a ton. So I don't think that's what we need. I mean, if we want to have another guy where it's like, okay, Nimmo, Marte, Lindor get on base, Alonso's getting on base, and you have those guys on, you don't want to be striking out. You want a guy that's a home run hitter, but still play a little more frequently. Again, these guys, like if Mitch had the whole season healthy and was doing pretty close to what he normally does, I'd be all over him. But the injury scares me. And then Soler, too many strikeouts, division rival similar to Josh Bell. I just don't see it being likely.
Yeah, and also looking at the Soler contract, it's really 3 1-year deals because he has an opt out after every single year. So again, the idea of he hasn't had the greatest year, so maybe he's like, hey, maybe this year isn't the opt out year, but you also have that weighing in mind with Jorge Soler. Moving on to tier 3, couple options. 1, I think the Mets will not have the package to get, and 2, the other guy I don't want the Mets to touch. I know Tony Metro wrote a great article on Empire Sports Media talking about this guy and CJ Cron. So check out Tony's article. We'll link that down in the description below. Be sure, obviously, check out Empire Sports Media for all of your New York sports needs. So tier 3, again, CJ Cron, Ian Happ. I will start with the better of the two, in my opinion. Ian Happ, switch hitting outfield, left field of the Chicago Cubs, has control for next year as well, becoming a free agent in 2024. I just think, 1, the Mets are probably not the team that are as desperate for an outfielder. I think he would be a good fit. Obviously, another switcher in this lineup. But I think there will be teams that are desperate to add some outfielder. Yankees, Phillies, potentially now you have to throw them in. So obviously now losing Bryce Harper. So now the Phillies could be in that mix. There are other teams, obviously. But I just think Mets with Ian Happ, a team will overpay for him. The Mets don't have, obviously, they don't have the greatest capital for making trades, which is hard with the Mets because they are very top head. I do think there's some really good high upside, except they're just 20 and 18, 19 years old. But do you really want to trade those guys who are untapped potential teenagers for guys who win now? It also depends what is your window trying to win a World Series or not. And CJ Cron, I'll let Frank break down the home road splits because they are drastic from being from Coors Field. And obviously, you really can't yell at the guy. He got paid. He went to Colorado. He knew what he was doing. But obviously, if you're trying to trade for someone who's not playing in Colorado, which 29 of the teams aren't, I don't think he's as appealing. I understand, again, the Mets need that big bopper, which we'll continue to say until the deadline. I just don't think CJ Cron is that guy. I think there are better options. But for me, these guys, either we're not going to touch for price tag wise, or I don't think they're as big of a need. Frank?
Yeah, I'll start off with CJ Cron because you mentioned him. And one of the other things that really stands out to me about CJ Cron is that for his career, he had been known as a lefty killer. Like, that was one of the big things that he always did throughout his career. He was really good against left-handed pitching, which you're thinking, oh my gosh, Mets center stroke against lefties, that'd be perfect. However, this year he does have reverse splits. 11 of his home runs against righties, 6 against lefties. He's obviously had a lot more play appearances against right-handed pitching, but his batting average 40 points lower when he's facing lefties. OPS 20 points lower. So he hasn't been quite the same guy he usually is against lefties. And then to go further with the home and road splits, 13 home runs at home, only 4 away. And then, I mean, if you want to look at OPS, because that's the big trendy number now for some teams. Now City Field, instead of showing batting average, they show OPS. So if you want to look at OPS, at home, CJ Cron 1,097 compared to away 666. So that's unlucky right there. You don't want anything to do with that. But Ian Happ, to me, I know the price tag is going to be a lot. I know it's not the Mets' biggest need, and some other teams could use him a lot. I wouldn't mind seeing the Houston Astros pick him up and get themselves a new center fielder. But Ian Happ, he's done really good against left-handed pitching this year. 352 average, 925 OPS. He's a guy that he has a little bit of speed. He plays center field. He plays left field. So he really could move around. He's not a guy that like Soler who plays the outfield but doesn't play particularly well. Ian Happ's a guy, he bats all over the lineup. He can lead off, bat in the middle, bat the lower half of the lineup. And we know that Buck Showalter likes to mix that up. And this year, he's 288 with runners in scoring position. And like you said, he's a switch hitter, and he's got good balance from both sides. Not like Josh Bell, who's only good from one side. So Ian Happ, out of all these guys that we're looking at for DH options, I prefer him way more than everybody else. But like you said, what does that trade package look like? And I think you may have to ask yourself, well, it's like, well, could they put him in with some other guys, maybe one of the veteran starting pitchers that Chicago has. I don't know, Wade Miley, Drew Smiley, or something like that. I mean, just to lower the price a little bit. Ian Happ, I like him, but he's not a guy I'm putting Mauricio in. I'm not putting in Alex Ramirez, I'm not putting in Matt Allen. So if I'm not using those guys, other teams are going to beat that package. So like you said, it's not likely, but if there was a way to get him, I would be very, very interested.
And I'm going to throw a couple extra guys in here, again, kind of maybe even further than tier 3, which either a very expensive or just dreaming and, you're blowing up your farm system for. We'll start with the lesser of the two, kind of in the same level as Ian Happ, maybe an Andrew Benintendi from Kansas City. I know Tony brought that up on Mets Weekly, I think, a couple weeks ago. Another guy, good contact, good on-base, Gold Glove defender. Maybe you get him, move Canada to the DH, which now finally maybe Canada can be the productive DH they need, but not going to provide you much power. And I brought this up on the Mets Weekly channel, which I'm talking about relievers and a bundle, which we'll get to that reliever, because if you watch any of the Mets Weekly videos, I never shut up about the certain reliever. And that is Bryan Reynolds, Pittsburgh Pirates center fielder. Obviously has 1 year left. In April was struggling, but the last 2 months he's back to being Bryan Reynolds. Would give you great insurance if you do lose my wow, I almost said the forbidden word. Brandon Nimmo. I'm leaving that all in. Brandon Nimmo, just in case he does leave, again, he hasn't been having a great year, but also, again, teams know how valuable Brandon Nimmo is, and potentially the rare time he might get overpaid because you do have a lot of contracts you need to extend this year. Maybe if Nimmo does test and Boris gets him a godly offer, it gives you the insurance. Obviously, you still have Starling Marte, which, again, is an extra insurance for center field. But Bryan Reynolds is one of the best. I've always loved Bryan Reynolds as a player. Another switch-hitting bat. Again, he's not going to hit 40 homers, but he can hit 25, maybe 30, maybe in City Field, hooking him down the right field line. Frank, again, Bryan Reynolds, does that name get you going? Maybe Andrew Benintendi. What do you got?
Now, Bryan Reynolds, because I believe he is better than Ian Happ, he has a little bit more proven track record. He has that speed element. He plays a really good center field. So he's a guy that, Mauricio, if you throw in Bednar, I'm thinking about it now. I'm a little more considerate. I'm definitely willing to give up quite a bit more for Ian Happ. I'm sorry, more for a Bryan Reynolds than an Ian Happ. So he's somebody I really like a lot. And like you said, you would like that insurance policy just in case, because the Scott Boras thing has to scare you. Like, we all like Brandon Nimmo. He's an important part of the team. He does a lot of good things. But you really have to wonder, like, what is the price range on him? If a team just goes like with absolutely crazy contract, it's like, is that something you do, or do you feel like, maybe you could get a good amount of that out of Brian Reynolds and maybe at a lower cost? And like you say, he's also a switch hitting bat that has a little bit more proven of a power guy. So he's definitely someone I'd be all over, and he's someone I really like. But like you said, the price that it's going to cost, it would make it a tough one to pull off. But he's someone I definitely would like to look at. And you feel like he's going to be on the move eventually. That's the other thing to consider, is that, like, even though it's going to cost a lot, he still is looking like he can be moved, because Pittsburgh's not going to be competitive. They're not going to give him the money he's worth. And they were really close to trading him. It was either before the season started or right when the season started, San Diego. Like, that trade looked like it was almost done. Yeah. So, and the fact that now Brian Reynolds has picked it up and getting back closer to the player he's been in the past, that's something that is really good, because when he got to that slow start, it was like, ooh, maybe it was a good idea that the Padres or another team didn't make that trade. But I think he could be available. I definitely would like him. And like I said, you get Bednar with a bullpen, we're going to get to it later, is probably the biggest weakness on this team, honestly, as far as just quality depth, just having a bunch of good relievers. If you could get both those things done all with one trade, I mean, that'd be a really perfect scenario for the Mets.
Yeah, and also, again, this was also when Derek Jeter was at the helm, but the Miami Marlins were hot and heavy for Brian Reynolds. So keeping him out of the division would have been great. We don't know what now, the Marlins' direction with Kim Ng and their new ownership, what their new plan is, but Jeter was hot and heavy for Brian Reynolds. So there's DH in the comment section. Who's your big DH target? Drop it down in the comment section.
And I was just going to say for Benny, when you look at him, like, he's having a good year, but it's literally like a New York Met. I mean, he has 3 home runs this year, really good on base. He doesn't strike out. Like, he fits the Mets mold. He fits what they're doing, but you know what? He's left-handed. So it's just like, we have so many Andrew Benintendi's on our team as it is. I think we do need somebody a little different, a little more power bat, a switch hitter like a Brian Reynolds. So, and like, Bente's having a good year, and like, he fits what the Mets like to do, but I don't think the Mets need more of what they have. I think they do need something slightly different.